Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2 of Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves. I'm your host, Ike, and before you get too sucked into this awesome interview, do us both a favor and like, subscribe, and share this amazing piece of entertainment, because I'm here with the one, the only, Doug!
Hello.
Say hello, Doug.
Hi. How are you doing, everyone?
I don't know about them, but I am doing great and excited to have you here. How about yourself?
I'm happy to be here for sure. I think this will be an interesting
Yay!
and fun experience for both of us.
Huzzah! All right, speaking of interesting and fun, what was your first movie date?
Shit. What was it? God, that was like middle school. I don't remember. I'm going to be completely honest with you.
All right. Well, in lieu of that, I've got a follow up for us forgetful Sallies. In lieu of that, what movie do you think makes a great first date movie?
Depends on what your intentions on the first date are. If you're trying to get laid, Cloud Atlas. If you're trying to share something with someone special, whatever movie is good for you.
Let's go with that option. Let's go with option 2.
That's like whatever movie is special to you. Like if I had a first date, I would probably have her watch something that's important to me. I don't know, like Galaxy Quest. That's a movie me and my dad watched together, so it means a lot to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll go with Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy Quest.
Right.
Peak Tim Allen. Peak return to fame Tim Allen.
Right. Tony Shalhoub, one of his best roles ever.
Yeah, Tony Shalhoub in like the most underrated role. Like he's a background. Like that cast is mono bangers. It's so cool going back and watching that one.
Yeah, you're
it's
like
you've got Sigourney Weaver, Tony Shalhoub, Alan Rickman,
Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell again as like a seemingly throwaway character. It's like Sam Rockwell and Tony Shalhoub they're in the background basically. It's
Right.
like that's how you know your movie is a bang, and like they still obviously perform well. But it's just like, oh, it's just so bad. You get coming up with Jason Bateman, but that's not right. Who's the name of the kid that was in like all those Apple commercials that he's like the super fan?
Jason Long.
Jason Long or Justin
Long. Justin Long. That's
Justin
right.
Long. Yeah, you got Justin Long again, like super like my character. It's like it's so awesome seeing all these hitters come out, and like even when they're doing small parts, just like destroy.
Yeah,
it's so great.
I just love Sam Rockwell. He's a fantastic actor. Speaking of Sam Rockwell, have you ever seen a movie called Moon?
I saw a bit of it, and then for whatever reason I turned it off, but it looked amazing.
That movie will straight fuck you up. I'll tell you that right now.
I'm not sure if I'm glad or happy that I didn't finish it.
No, it's a good kind of fuck you up. You're just like, whoa. Like it's like a Signs level twist at the end.
Well, since we've been talking about movies, do you have a favorite movie line that you like to quote just apropos of nothing?
Let me think.
I'll allow it.
Aim for the bushes from the other guys.
I think that might be. Speaking of throwaway characters, you've got The Rock and Samuel L. Jackson in a movie for like 10 minutes, 5 minutes, like insanely short amount of time, has arguably one of the best scenes in the movie, and then just dies in the most epically stupid way possible.
And then the one-liners from then on out, it's just like there wasn't even an awning. There weren't any bushes. What were they aiming for? That's one of my favorite movies is The Other Guys. It's fantastic.
It's so great. Gator gotta get his cat back.
That's right. Gator's bitches better be using jimmies. Who did this to you? Alan.
Do you have a favorite, while we're talking about salacious lines, do you have a favorite non-traditional curse word you like to use?
Coward.
Ooh.
I call
strikes the heart of a man.
Yeah, I call people cowards. I call people cowards all the time. But like a curse word that you wouldn't be able to say on like national television would probably be chuckle.
No. I think that is a perfect embodiment of what we're looking for.
Oh, okay.
Just like the way somebody clarified this, but I feel like most people wouldn't know what it meant. But instead of non-traditional curse word, the technical request I'm asking for is, what's your favorite minced oath? But I think that's one of those phrases that's gone by the wayside. So I use non-traditional curse word.
Oh, gotcha.
So like mother trucker, son of a monkey. In your case, coward is a
Mm-hmm.
perfect one that would not get bleeped, but would just cut you deep.
Yeah, it's like Shakespearean.
Yeah, that one's great. What's your favorite meal to make just for yourself, assuming cost and time are not relevant factors?
Lasagna.
Lasagna?
Yeah, that's my favorite.
How you
food.
making your lasag?
Well, you get.
Are you making the pasta from scratch, or are we buying that?
We're buying the
like,
pasta.
How deep in the sauce are we going?
I can't make pasta, so I would have to get it from the store. But it would be like just good quality lasagna noodles, and then you would get some ground beef, and you put that with some salt, some pepper, a little bit of garlic powder. Then you get some ricotta cheese, and then you would layer it: noodle, meat, cheese, noodle, meat, cheese, noodle, meat, cheese, and then you bake it for 45 minutes on like 350, 375. It's a pretty basic dish, but I love lasagna. It's one of my.
It's the perfect. Yeah, it's just all timer.
Yeah.
Well, since we're talking about food, who's someone you've never met alive or dead that you'd like to have lunch with? Follow up to who it is. Where are you taking them? What are you eating? And what do you want to like talk to them about?
Just a person I can speak with. Like I don't have to share a language with them. We both speak common.
Yeah. Whatever. There's going to be no parlance bridge to be like created. Like if magically they're going to be able, like if they're we're coming up with a magical scenario. We're potentially bringing dead people back to life. I'm assuming that you're gonna just like the common tongue between you is just going to flow.
Gotcha.
Whether it's going to be you speaking their language, you understanding theirs, whatever.
Oh man.
You will be able to understand each other.
I'm trying to think of who it would be. I know there's historical figures because I've got like 800 something hours on Civ 5, and so I've
Jeez.
Yeah, I played a lot of Civ 5 when it was out, but it was just like I always picked Pedro II because of Brazil, but I don't think I would want to meet Pedro II. So I'm not sure, honestly. What's his name?
Good old what's his name?
No, the Carthaginian leader, Hannibal.
Ooh, yeah.
I always had like a fascination with him when I was growing up because
he's the goat.
Yeah, Carthaginians.
He's like he literally inspired so much fear in Rome. I was reading about this the other day. It's very interesting happenstance crossover.
Yeah.
The other day I was reading that when something really bad happened in Rome, like plague, weather, whatever, there was this phrase where they kind of attributed it to Hannibal because he gave them so much biz. Like he was like such a thorn in their side that he like his visage, his like just vibe made way into their language because he was such a dick to them.
Yeah, I mean
it's amazing. Like the Roman Empire, like all these people fucking with him, like Hannibal. It's like freaking Hannibal's fucking with the weather again or whatever. Like they almost deified him, which is wild considering he is like the way we do war now. We always shrink down, minimalize, make the opposing enemy look weak or evil. We don't make them powerful.
Right. You have to dehumanize.
And like back then they're just like, yeah, like they like put him on a pedestal even though he was their enemy. It's wild.
Well, I mean, it's like you have to take into consideration that motherfucker marched elephants across the Alps.
Yeah.
And I just imagine what it felt like the first time you ever saw an elephant in real life, if you've seen an elephant in real life. And that's how the Roman soldiers felt on the battlefield. It was just like, what the fuck is that thing?
Yeah.
I mean, that would break. That
really
would break.
Does make sense why people wrote about like a lot. There's a lot of monster trivia that came out from back in the day. It's just like you didn't have the internet, you didn't know what things were, and so when something came like halumphing at you out of nowhere,
like bears and rhinos and all sorts of
bears, rhinos. My favorite one that people are postulating now is that, is it like that Vikings thought they saw sea monsters and these like tentacle beasts. Most likely what it was is that like whales will occasionally come to the surface, roll over, and just let their dicks hang out.
Oh, wow.
To
wow.
I don't know if it's like their version of masturbating or whatever, but they'll just like put their dicks in like the actual air.
You know, you got to get some cold, fresh air on your dick sometimes.
I guess so, and like that's what people are postulating. Like Vikings thought sea monster, like the idea of sea monsters came from his whale dicks.
I mean that is entirely
just the best.
Yeah, it's very plausible, extremely plausible.
Speaking of things that are plausible, do you have a life hack that you'd like to share with the class to improve their daily living?
I was trying to think of one of these the other day, and I really couldn't. I mean, I know I do stuff that makes sense to me, but I don't necessarily think it's weird, because when you do something that's a life hack and it just makes sense, you don't think about it, you know what I mean? So
you've never done it in front of like a friend or significant other and have them be perplexed, though?
Right. I mean, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I tried to think the other day about this, but it was just like, it escaped me.
Well, we will or won't come back to that one.
Okay. I mean, I'll think about it more, but like I was
yeah, no worries.
running my mind through the ringer, and I was like, what do I do? It's just like...
Speaking of things to do, what is your favorite non-exercise thing that you have to force yourself to do?
I mean, I don't do things I don't enjoy.
Do you work out?
No, I don't. Because I don't enjoy working out. I mean, I probably clean the bathroom at turn 0, but that's kind of my job, so I force myself to do it. I'm still looking for the pee-pee bandit, man.
One day he'll be caught.
I'll find that motherfucker.
Speaking of jobs, what's a job at some point in your life that you wanted to pursue but are very glad you didn't?
Video game tester.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is it that you're glad you didn't pursue it?
So I did. That answer is not wholly true. I did pursue it. I worked in video game testing for 2 months, but
and that was long enough.
Yeah, I was a QA tester at Activision when Black Ops 3 was coming out. I was there for 2 months. I did a bunch of QA testing. Didn't even get my name in the credits, so it's like I don't even have evidence that I was on the QA team. But they worked us like 12-hour days, and we made so little money. They just ran us into the fucking ground, and it's just like indicative of how the video game industry treats its employees.
Yeah. And pseudo fans. Like, you guys are employees, but you're almost probably more fans than you are employees,
right?
For the most part, I would guess.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I am not a big Call of Duty. I used to love Activision. I used to play Guitar Hero.
Before this 2-month stint, I was a fan.
No, I mean, it's like Activision has changed a lot over the years. I mean, they used to make games. Like, one of my favorite Activision titles back in the day was called Nightmare Creatures. I had it on PlayStation 1. I played the shit out of that game, and Activision made it. Activision made Vigilante 8 and Vigilante 8 Second Offense. I still, to this day, remember where all the pickups are, what all the codes for the special weapons are, where like what each character does. Cool. I mean, it's just like... These Activision games were a part of my childhood, and so I was like, oh yeah, sure, I'd like to work for Activision. And then I get to the QA testing department in El Segundo, and it was not everything it was cracked up to be. It's just like, there wasn't a sense of community, because we were contractors with a company called Volt, and so we weren't actually part of Activision, and so we didn't have benefits. There were Activision employees who were like, yeah, this is the greatest job I've ever had. This is fantastic. They treat me like a person. But if you're a contractor, I mean, I guess that's the shortcoming of the video game industry, is that if you're a contractor, you're kind of second-class citizen.
Yeah. How early on did you think you wanted to be a video game tester?
Oh, 5 years old.
Oh, wow. So this was, how did that sit with you after that experience? Were you like kind of crestfallen?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of made me fall out of love with video game titles and big companies. Like, I have a certain feelings about EA and Blizzard and Activision that I think a lot of the listeners will probably share. So, I mean, it's just like when you get to see how the sausage was made, and when you get to see how the sausage
and now you're vegan.
And now I'm vegan, you know? But it's like, I still love video games when they come from independent companies. Like, I'm doing a Divinity Original Sin 2 playthrough, and that's made from Larian. Larian Studios is working on Baldur's Gate 3, and they're an independent company. They're not like owned by Blizzard or Activision or like EA, any of the big AAA titles. And then you've got your other indie games like Satisfactory's great. It's made by Coffee Stain Studios. Coffee Stain published like Deep Rock Galactic, which I'm really into right now. Supergiant Games is another company that's independent.
That's the one, the Hades,
yeah,
right?
Hades, Bastion, Transistor, and Pyre. I've played at least once each of them. So it's just like,
would you consider trying your hand at that department, at like working in that department again, if you got to do it for like an indie game?
Maybe, yeah, I think. Because I mean, I'm pretty good at finding bugs. I'm not good at exploits, because that's what testers do. They like do this, and that's one thing that I think was definitely a wake-up call. Was my idea of what a video game tester was not what a video game tester actually is, and I think that's one of the reasons that I didn't continue to pursue it, was because it's mainly just a bunch of mundane bug checking, and you have to like send it up the pipeline, and then the coders take care of it, and a lot of times the bugs that you find they don't fix because it's so few and far between and rare that the bug would even come up, and it's not a what's the word, progress breaking bug, so they don't really care.
Do you wish that you hadn't tried it out, or are you happy that you did and you now know?
I mean, I live with very few regrets in my life, and so I think the experience that I gleaned from working at Activision kind of shaped my outlook on things today. So I mean, it's who I am. So I don't regret it. I don't wish I hadn't done it, because then I'd still have like the doe-eyed view outlook on video game testing and not have that experience.
So you're happy to have your dreams dashed as opposed to never realized?
Yeah, reality's a cruel bitch. She is a cruel mistress, and the sooner you realize that as an individual, the easier your life will become.
Yeah. Well, since we're on such a somber note, is there any other life lessons you wish you learned, albeit sooner than you already did?
Read the contract. I joined the Marine Corps, and that was one of my biggest mistakes. I told them I wanted to blow shit up, and I ended up operating tractors. So
not exactly the same.
No,
thing.
It was not. So I looked at my contract after I joined the Marine Corps, and I told him, like, my Sergeant Vargas, my recruiter, he was like, "What do you want to do?" I was like, I want to blow shit up. I want to learn how to blow things up and do fun shit with explosives. I think that'd be a fun life skill, And they were
takes you many different places in life.
Yeah. And so they were like, "Sure, we'll get you like in explosive ordnance and disposal." And they put me in the 1100 to 1300 range, which 1100. So in the military, in the Marine Corps specifically, your MOS starts with two numbers and ends with two numbers. And those two numbers at the beginning denote what your job is. So like an 1100 is the utilities field. So you could be anywhere from an electrician to a water dog. Water dogs are basically the folks who use water purifiers and make potable water for Marines to drink in the field and stuff like that. And then you've got like your generator technicians, your generator operators, and this, that, what have you. And then you've got your 1300 field, which is your motor T mechanics, your HE mechanics, your HE operators, your combat engineers, so on and so forth.
Okay.
And so when I was put in the 1100 to 1300 option, that means that I got my name thrown into the goblet of fire, and they drew my name out for 1345, and so I was a heavy equipment operator. So I did not get to blow up anything. So read the contract, kids.
If you want to blow shit up, read the contract.
Right.
All right. We're going to change it in a wacky direction.
Let's go.
What inanimate object would you be best friends with where it's sentient?
My motorcycle.
Wait, how sentient were we talking? Would you want it to be like Kit from Knight Rider? Like what we looking at?
I was thinking more like not Herbie. What's the bug cartoon? Not the bug, but like the buggy. He's like like the Hanna-Barbera cartoon. I forget his name. but he's orange and blue, and his eyes are the headlights, and he doesn't really talk.
Hold on.
If you look up orange and blue buggy Hanna-Barbera, he'll come right up.
You're talking about Speed Buggy?
I think so, yeah. I think that's his name. Let me look it up on my phone.
Yeah. It's Speed Buggy.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Deep cut. All
Speed
right.
Buggy.
So you want a bike that could be emotive but not use English parlance?
I mean, sure. He'd be creepy, like a pet, like a motorcycle pet.
Motorcycle pet.
But I've got 3 different motorcycles, and most people ask me why, and I say because they were inexpensive.
Is that sarcasm, or were they truly inexpensive?
No, I got one motorcycle for $500, one for $1,500, and the third one was $3,000. So I've got.
Yeah, that's relatively inexpensive.
Yeah. My second.
Were they like a deal, or have you had to work on them, or why were they so cheap?
So my buddy Nicole, she got a new motorcycle, and she had the one that I got from her sitting in her garage for like 2 years. It needed a new carburetor, new seat, new fork seals, and so she was like, I bought it for $500, I'll sell it to you for $500. I was like, sweet, I'll take it. And so
yeah, deal.
I got it. When I for like the first year I had it, it wouldn't go above 35 miles an hour, but I just drove it to work and back, and so I didn't need it to go above 35 miles an hour because I live in Koreatown.
Yeah.
And so after a while, I saved up some money and got a new carburetor, and now it goes up to 70, I think, so I could take it on the freeway. It needed a new seat. Fork seals were leaking. For those of you who don't know about fork seals, the 2 prongs in the front of a motorcycle on the front wheel, those are the forks. And the seals keep the oil inside so that it lubricates the suspension springs. So if the fork seals are leaking, that means the oil's getting out, and you don't want metal rubbing on metal in there, because then you have to get new forks, and that's way more expensive.
Yeah.
I had to do that on my other motorcycle, my $1,500 one. That's a Sportster Harley Davidson. It looks straight out of Mad Max. You've seen it, Ike.
Yeah.
I can't ride it very much, though, because like the fork seals are leaking. And then my newest one that I got is my daily rider that I ride now. It's a Yamaha 650 V-Star.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much fun. It's a big... like, motorcycles are just fun. And a lot of people think they're dangerous, and statistically speaking, more single vehicle crashes are what cause injuries on motorcycles than 2 vehicle crashes, which is layman's terms.
Driver error.
Well, yeah, it's like you lay your bike down and you flip your bike over because you hit the brakes or hit some gravel, or you're going too fast around a turn. And yeah, I mean, it's dangerous in Los Angeles, but it's not more dangerous in Los Angeles, I'd say, than walking down the street and having a chance to get hit by a car. I could be wrong, statistically speaking, but I keep my head on a swivel and be as I'd be as cautious as possible around drivers. I know LA drivers are notorious.
Yeah. Prone to being stupid.
Yeah.
All right, man, I'm going to give you a hypothetical.
Okay.
You're going out to a party and you want to look extra. Other than your normal garb, what accessory do you rock to just add to your ensemble so it is just that more eye-catching?
Top hat. I was talking to my girlfriend about this while we were at the mall the other day. There was a tuxedo shop right outside of the Bed Bath & Beyond. And they had like this bright red tuxedo with like black lapels and black buttons. And it was like the long tail.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like straight out of Dumb and Dumber, but it was red and not just like this gaudy orange or powder blue.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I would rock that at a fucking fancy get-up. Because it was like not a super bright red, but it was like a...
It was bright enough to be a head turner?
Yeah, it's not crimson, but it's not like bright red, so it's like kind of in the middle.
Okay.
Like, I just like a regular red, I guess.
Uh-huh.
But it was looking tight, but it was made for a teenager. I could tell it was a prom tuxedo for sure.
For sure. Well, speaking of made for teenagers, what poor man luxury do you still enjoy to this day?
Soda, I guess. I don't know.
What kind of soda do you enjoy?
I'd say my favorite soda is probably root beer, because I'm a weird kid.
All right, now we're gonna get into the weeds. We're talking like A&W mugs. What brand? Because I know this can definitely be contentious for a lot of people that are root beer fans because there's so many different companies that make it.
I mean, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna come up straight out of left field. I say the best root beer I've ever had is Dad's.
Dad's is a good one. Dad's is underrated. I'm embarrassed that I forgot about Dad's.
Yeah, well, Dad's is...
Forgive me, Father, I've sinned.
It's okay. Dad's is more of like a southern/East Coast thing. You don't see a lot of Dad's out here on the West Coast.
Huh. I never thought of that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you will never find an In-N-Out on the East Coast because they're like West Coast only things.
Yeah.
There are no Waffle Houses. There are no Waffle Houses west of Texas, I don't think.
I think both of those things are starting to change because of hipsters, but yeah, it definitely is. Like, you can definitely tell what state you're in by the amount of Waffle Houses, In-N-Outs, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, since we're on the topic of consumables, if you were a condiment, which do you think you'd be?
Well, this is going to sound super basic, but ranch.
It's not basic at all, my friend. That's just the right answer.
I was thinking barbecue sauce.
Do we have a particular brand that you go for?
No, not at all. I get the ranch at whatever restaurant I'm at. I don't have ranch dressing at the house. When I do get salad dressing, it's normally poppy seed because I'm a weirdo.
Poppy seed is delish.
It is delish. I found out about poppy seed dressing when I was in college at Austin Peay State University. I was in the cafeteria and there was a bunch of different dressings and I was like, poppy seed, what's this? And I tried on my salad and I'm like, damn, this is great.
Well, speaking of things that are great, what media, whether it be book, graphic novel, TV show, or movie, have you been putting off that's next on your to consume list that you just can't wait to break open?
I mean, I don't really have a list of things to break open. Sure. I think all of the things that I wanted to watch, I have watched recently. Let me try to think.
If your list is empty, what's the last best thing you've watched?
Last best thing I watched?
Yeah, like the one of the last slew of things that you would recommend to those peeps out there.
Oh, I've been telling everybody and their mother to watch RRR.
Oh yeah.
That movie is phenomenal. I've watched it 5 times.
Good Lord.
Yeah. It's 3 hours long.
One, watching a movie 5 times is relatively impressive considering how recently it came out. 2, movie's 3+ hours long. So that's like insanely impressive.
Yeah. One time was in movie theaters. I went for my birthday last month to the Alamo Drafthouse, which is a great place to see a movie if you've never seen a movie there.
Which random tangent that nobody's gonna get unless they've seen it. Which of the 2 guys were you kind of hoping for more of the movie, do you think?
Oh my god, it changed so much throughout the movie. Like, at the beginning, you're just like, this guy's an Uncle Tom, and then the movie goes on later, and you're like, this guy's not an Uncle Tom at all.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, Beam is doing what he's doing because he wants to protect the people in his tribe.
That's what he do.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you're rooting for both of them for different reasons, and you're just like, oh, fuck. And then, obviously, the British Empire are the villains in the movie. And
in real life.
And in real life. I'll tell you a funny story. So when we
I'll listen to it.
We went to go see RRR at the Alamo Drafthouse, and I invited a few people that I don't normally hang out with outside of the store. And one of the people, I will not name names, but he knows who he is if he ever hears this, decided to defend British colonialism.
Wow. It's a strong devil advocate stance of
He was like, oh, they're just vilifying the British colonialists in this movie. It's just Indian propaganda. I was like, what? What? He was like, yeah, they brought good stuff to India too. I was like, oh, stop. Just stop, please. And then him and another person that was there, that was very liberal in their beliefs, decided to go at it, and I had to like calm them down and be like, yo guys, let's reel it in. Let's talk about how great the movie was, because it is it's like just, it's got everything. It's got action,
banger.
Yeah, action, comedy, drama,
dance
love.
offs.
There's dance. Oh my god, that's that's one of the phrases that I say from movies you were talking about earlier. It was like, not salsa, not flamenco, my brother. And I just say that to my girlfriend sometimes. She looks at me and starts dancing. So, you know, I listened to what the guy had to say, and I was like, take it with a grain of salt. Looked it up later, and the British Empire did bring some good things to India, but they were all out of self-interest. So, like, how good could they really be?
Yeah. Not only was it out of self-interest, but the bad vastly outweighs the good.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, you know, brutality and all sorts of...
Yeah, it's like looking at the Roman Empire, like, they did so much great things for all these countries. It's like, yeah, after they murdered and raped and pillaged everything else they wanted, they gave you a road.
Right.
Like, yes, they did, but like...
We're building this so we can come back later and take more stuff.
Yeah, it's like looking at other, like... It's like looking at a B&E and being like, well, I mean, look, the air quality is so much better now that there's not a window in the way. It's like, yeah,
right,
I guess. Like, we're still going to arrest them for breaking in though, right? Like, they still committed a heinous crime.
No.
Like, yes, there is a tiny benefit, but also like they took all my shit.
Exactly. I was a Tuesday at the shop. There was a guy who was playing Pokemon, and I listened to what they talk about in the back, and this has to do with the Roman Empire, so that's why I brought it up. But he said that the Roman Empire is basically history's version of copy my homework, but change it up a little bit so they can't tell.
Yeah. That's absolutely correct. 100%. Let's take this and make it mine. Well, before we get too far away from it, we're talking about RRR.
Yeah.
And since we're talking about movies, who would you want to play you in a movie of your life? You can pick the time period.
I would want Jake Gyllenhaal to play me while I was in the Marine Corps.
So just a more pedantic version of Jarhead?
Yes, because the movie Jarhead was probably the experience that some Marines had in the Marine Corps. Obviously, the first Gulf War was much more serious than Operation OEF and OIF. I mean, they were obviously still serious, but the experience that I had in the Marines was much more comical than the experience he portrayed in Jarhead. And I would just love to see that on screen with him taking it in. Because as far as like people look at him and they say Jarhead and they were like, okay, he played a good Marine. I'd be like, but did he play a really bad Marine?
Yeah.
Because I was not a good Marine.
All right. Well, lastly, before we throw it to commercial break, if you could have listeners of this podcast hear one song you're choosing, which would it be?
I told you Tribute earlier, so I'm going to stick with that.
Tribute by Tenacious D, always a good choice.
Yeah, that's my go-to karaoke song. And it's...
Just belt it out, go for it.
I mean, I do.
Leave no stone unturned.
Yeah. There's actually video of me online at Next Gen's old place singing karaoke at the store.
Were you singing Tribute?
Yeah, I was, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
We'll see if we can dig that up and put that in show notes.
Yeah, sure.
All right. With that, we're going to throw it to our first break. Feel free to stick around and enjoy this totally real commercial, or take a minute to enjoy Tribute by Tenacious D. Or if you really wanted to hear a song from a previous episode, check out the playlist on Spotify, Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves podcast, Song Rex. It's a long title, I know. Don't worry, there's a link in the description. Either way, see you in a jiffy. Do you need 100 pounds of butter? Come on down to Company Street Company. What if I need 30 gallons of olive oil? Come on down to Company Street Company. But what if I just want one flatless bird roasted for a reasonable price? Come on down to Company Street Company. Okay, but... Just come on down to Company Street Company. We have everything for a better price. Free snacks, and employees who don't want to kill themselves, or you, because we treat them like fucking human beings. Yeah, but... Yup. Even... Just get your ass down to Company Street Company, where the only sketchy thing we've ever done is enable frozen orange juice hoarders. Welcome back, everybody. So I'm here with Doug. Doug, what is your passion that you have brought with you today to speak about?
Well, I work at a game store called Turn Zero Games in Koreatown, Los Angeles. Shout out, Turn Zero. And I say that my passion is bringing people into some of the hobbies that I'm passionate about. So, for example, if somebody comes into the store and wants to learn how to play Dungeons and Dragons, I get excited because then I can share with them my passion for Dungeons and Dragons or Magic the Gathering or some of the other board games at the store. Like, if somebody wants to get Small World, I'm all for it because I'm like, this game's great. I own a copy and it's fantastic. Um, and that is sort of my passion that I brought to the show because
Woo.
when people walk in, and it's a mouthful, it's so much. When people walk into the store and they're genuinely interested in the things that I'm interested in, it makes me excited. Their excitement gets me excited, and I hope my excitement gets them excited.
So if they're looking for the same thing that you're about, obviously, that makes sense to why to be excited. It's a very human reaction of like, kind of like tribe. It's like minimalized tribalism, right? It's just like, oh, you do the thing that I like to do. Let's be, let's be friends.
Let's be friends.
What about when somebody comes in and they're like not sure about what they want? Is that a different kind of excitement? Because that seems like it kind of is one of those either other sides of the same coin or most likely occurrence, if I'm not incorrect, like at your work, that people are going to come and be like, I like to do a thing, but I don't know what thing that is. Or is that more rare than I am imagining?
It's uncommon. I'd say that the most common thing is people coming into the store and buying singles or buying models. We've got our regulars that come in and do their thing. The least common thing is people coming in and looking for things we don't have. We get so many calls about video games, though, like phone calls. They all sell video games. But I'd say the uncommon thing is what you're talking about: people coming in and not knowing exactly what they want. But then
blank slate.
Yeah. It's fun to converse with them in the store because I get to ask them questions and try and find them the best fit for what they want. They're like, oh, we're looking for a more social experience. We're looking for a board game that is close to Catan, but not Catan. We're looking for something that isn't going to take us 3 hours. We can pick it up and play it in 30 or 40 minutes, and it's easy to explain to our friends. And then there are board games that we have that take 12 hours, like a Twilight Imperium or what's another, like Nemesis or Descent. Those are really dense. So we call them, there's like levels of density as far as board games are concerned, and density comes down to like rule set, game actions, pieces, how long it takes. It's all like different categories. And when people come in and ask, I need a game for board game night, I say, okay, here are some options. We've got Concept, we've got Splendor, we've got escape room games, we've got Smash Up. Smash Up's a relatively simple game. Decrypto's a great one for board game night. I play that with my girlfriend, and when we do game nights at her place.
So but that is a less common thing. The more common thing you're saying is people come in with either a genre or a specific game in mind. Like how much like hobby troubleshooting is there for you when somebody comes in and they know what they want? Because if that's the more common thing,
like I'd say 1 out of 5 people come in and ask, "Hey, I need something, but I don't know what it is," and then I have to help them. So I mean, it's less common than some of the more common things in the store, but more rare than.
What are the more common things that you get to? So okay, so if 1 out of 5 times somebody comes in and they want something that, and you're saying they don't know what it is, right? Okay, so what are the other relative 4?
So
in that scenario,
those are the people that, like, for the people that come into the store, they want Magic singles, or they want D&D, or they want Warhammer. So it's basically those folks, the 1 in 5, are the ones who come in and are just like, oh, hey, we're browsing around, but we don't know what we're looking for yet. And then...
So those are your ideal customers?
No,
those are not.
My ideal customers are the... so I've got this categorizing way to look at customers that walk into the store, right? I mean, it's I wouldn't say it's dehumanizing, but it definitely categorizes people, which typically is not something you want to do as an individual. But you've got your customers and you've got your clients, right? Your clients are like, say you come in regularly, you buy stuff, you sell stuff. You're a regular, so you would be considered what I would consider a client.
I'm the norm of turn zero.
You're the norm of turn zero. You spend a regular amount of money. Like you have regular intervals where you buy things from us, and we can depend on you being there and supporting our business. Customers are the 1 in 5, like the people that walk in off the street. Hey, I didn't know you were here. I Googled board game store. I have a board game night tonight. I need something to take with me, and we'll never see them again. Like those are the 1 in 5. Like the customers are the for lack of a better term, the schmucks that coming off the street.
So what kind of regulars are the ones that you're able to help with this passion of yours?
So Commander is a format in Magic, and you're aware of it. I'm aware of it.
I am, but most of there's plenty of the listeners that might not.
Yeah,
be,
yeah,
so
I know.
If you want to give them a TLDR.
So Commander is a casual format in a game, Magic the Gathering, and Magic is the world's most popular card game, but most people still don't know about it. Actually, it is the world's most popular. Pokemon is a close second, but Magic is still the most popular. And Commander is a casual format where people get to be a little bit more creative as far as their deck building is concerned, because Ike here, host, plays a little bit more competitively. I have more competitive decks.
Who, me?
You? What?
Why, I never.
No way, bro. So I have some competitive decks myself. I have some Commander decks as well, but the way that I would help the people that come into the store that are regulars is they ask me opinions about cards. They say, hey, I'm building this deck, what should I put in it? And then in my 20 plus years of playing the game, I can rattle off some cards and help them out, which is fun, but it gets laborsome after you've heard the 30th person walk in and say, I'm building a Braids deck, what should I put in it? I'd be like, the same thing as I told the last 29 people.
Yeah.
I just got all these kids. Just this is something I could talk about for hours. Like, I don't know if we have time for this. But
we've got a bit. Go for it.
I feel the Commander format is much different than what I fell in love with a decade ago, because we've got things now. Are you familiar with EDH Rec at all?
Yes and no.
Okay. Do you know what it is though, right?
No.
Okay, so
EDH Rec?
Yeah, EDH Rec is a website. It's basically net decking for Commander. So, for lack of a better term, it's like, what should I put in this deck? I'd be like, I don't know. Like, what do you want to put in the deck? Like, what do you want to, like, you get the people that come in and play Commander and they're still creative. But then you get the new players who don't know anything because they're just getting into the game and they don't have the 20 plus, 15 plus years of knowledge and experience and like exposure to the cardboard that, like, let's say you and I do. So it's like, EDH Rec is both a good thing and a bad thing. It's a double-edged sword because it causes people to homogenize their decks with the same cards and has steered Commander away from the fun, creative, like expressive format that I enjoyed like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like I had a Rashmi deck, right? It was called Rashmi Alternative Lifestyle, and every card in the deck had an alternative casting cost. Or cast something for free. It was like a fun deck and it didn't do anything. And like I would just get stomped in every Commander pod these days. It'd just be like, get out of here. It'd be like that scene in JoJo where they're just stomping on that guy. You've seen the meme.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm rambling about card. Like I knew we were gonna start talking about Magic and then I was just gonna never stop.
All right, so outside of dealing with EDH players, what's the big area? It sounded like more like board games is kind of your your zone of preference of expertise and like conversation? What are the what are your not favorite people, but what are your kind of clientele where you get to exude this passion? What do they look like? What do they sound like? Give us the kind of average breakdown here.
I'd say just normal folks. Just lack of a better term, normies. You know, they're not board game heads, because the board game heads do their own homework. They know where to go. They know to go to Board Game Geek and check the reviews and do their research. And they're not like D&D players, so they're not super familiar with like board game culture or like game store culture as a whole. They don't play Magic. They don't play Pokemon. They're not in the gaming scene. They're not part of it. Mm-hmm. So they're just like, they have other hobbies like rock climbing or drinking pumpkin spice lattes at Starbucks.
How many of these are regulars that are said normies?
Not a lot. I think typically when people come and buy board games, they don't come back. And if they do, they come back like 5 months later for a new board game.
For a new board game that can they exhaust it.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's somewhere between, like it's almost like the 1 in 5 that you're looking for, if I'm understanding correctly, where it's somebody that comes in maybe more than once, but a lot of the times it's like for the first and potentially the last time, and you get to introduce them to this world that they've never experienced, and you get to be their guide. Like you're their board game Sherpa.
Yeah, basically. That's kind of what it is. And that's one of the things I do really enjoy about working at Turn Zero. If I didn't love the job, I wouldn't do it. And I found that out about myself. It's like, you know, there was a point in my life where I wanted to be a voice actor because people tell me I can do relatively good voices on microphone and whatnot. But it's like, I think the inconsistency of the schedule and the lack of community that would be involved, like direct community, because I feel like as a person in my 30s, community is very important to me now. It's much more important to me than it used to be. But I feel like that sort of work environment wouldn't be conducive to my happiness. Like I work at Turn Zero. Steven's a great boss. Yanni's a great manager. Ryan's a great coworker. It's just the 4 of us, and there's Matt who helps out against City of Los Angeles. You know, we gotta fight Amazon. We gotta fight Next Gen down the street with their wonderful prize structures for their tournaments.
Some shots fired.
That's a inside joke.
From.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And people, if you know, you know. That's all you gotta understand. Yeah. But yeah, it's like, if I wasn't passionate about what I did and I wasn't happy at my job, I would find something else to do. Like I worked at the Peterson for a little while, and people who work at the
you looked at the what?
The Peterson, the automotive museum.
I did not know of this.
Yeah, I worked there part-time as
no, I didn't know the place existed. Oh, yeah. Also did know you worked there.
Yeah, no, it's actually it's a like I have no hard feelings towards the Peterson or any individuals that work there. Like my manager Bobby was fantastic. Carla was fantastic. All my coworkers, Linda and Tracy or not Tracy and what was it? Jocelyn. It was Jocelyn and Jocelyn.
Jocelyn.
Yeah, well, it was long hair Jocelyn and short hair Jocelyn is how I have them saved in my phone, because one of them had really long hair and one of them had like hair down to her ears. But they were all great. They were fun coworkers, and John and Pavel and all those folks. But it's just like I just wasn't happy there, so I quit. I was just like, I can't do this anymore.
Know thyself and to thyself be true.
Yeah, I mean, if what you're doing isn't making you happy, then do something else, because happiness is really what it's all about at the end of the day. That's my life philosophy.
Yeah. So when did you realize that this was something that brought you joy, that was a passion of yours? When did you first start becoming I'm going to stick with the term because it's just so fun, like a game shop guru?
So I have always been in game shops for the majority of my life. My first game store was Blackthorn in Dixon, Tennessee. Shout out to Blackthorn, Mark. They were always like, it was always a fun place to go. That's where me and my friends went on weekends to go play Dragon Ball Z, that card game from the 90s that nobody remembers. And, it went from Dragon Ball Z to Magic, and then from Magic, it just kind of spiraled out from there. I have always had Magic as a part of my life, like developing life. Like me and my buddies all got into it together, and then it just I kind of stuck with it, and it's really led to some of the most important relationships I've ever developed as an adult. Like I met most of my friends from college that I still keep in contact with through Magic. They necessarily don't play, but we kick shit around back and forth and design cards every once in a while. They got things going on in their life. They got families they're raising, jobs they got to do. So they don't, it's not as centric in their life as it is in mine, because I still work at a game store. But, it's like, I've got my buddy Brandon, who just moved away to Wisconsin, that bought a house out there. He's doing real well for himself, but like I met him through this hobby. And so I think leading yourself down a path that makes you feel better is just the best way to live. Because like I said, I think Bill Burr said this at one point. He said, somebody asked him, they were like, why did you start comedy so late? Aren't you afraid you'll fail? And his response was, and somebody can tear me up in the comments if you want, but I think this is him. Bill Burr said it. He was like, I'm not afraid of failure. I'm afraid of waking up in a bed that I don't want, with a wife I don't love, with kids that resent me, and a job I fucking hate. That's what I'm afraid of. And that's why he did what he did as an individual. Is he went for comedy because it made him happy.
Yeah. So I guess let's revert back. When did you first get into gaming? That might be a better place to start. Like, how old were you when you first started what would end up being getting on the road to working in a game store?
So my first experience with games was obviously, as a very young child, because you play games with your friends. But my first exposure to like video games or card games or hell, my dad, actually, that was my first exposure to it. I think I was 4. My dad played Warhammer Fantasy, and he would always go play Warhammer or Napoleonics or like World War II tabletop miniature games with his friends. He was in like a tabletop gaming club. And he played D&D back in the day when it was still in the red box before you could get the hardcovers. And so my dad has always been into gaming. He's always been like D&D, tabletop stuff. He never really got into card games, which is where he and I kind of like separated as far as like our passions are concerned. But he always loved modeling. He always loved painting. He always loved building stuff. He's still got a desk at the house. Like, he's 67 this year, I think. 65? He's 66 this year.
He's old.
He's old. He's an old dude. He just got access to his 401k retirement plan, which he's super excited about. He and I talked about it. Yeah. And him and Mom are going to be doing a bunch of renovations to the house now that he's got like a 40-plus year pension that he's got access to now.
Sick.
So they're doing pretty well for themselves as far as I know. But he's always been into it. And he was my first DM too, so that was one of my.
Oh, that's so awesome! How old were you when you first did? I'm assuming it was D&D, or was it a role playing game?
Yeah, it was Dungeons and Dragons. He pulled out his first edition books that he had when he was in like high school and college.
Cool.
Yeah, we were 13. It was me and all my friends were in middle school, and he did our.
And he DM'd for you and your friends.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Top shelf dad, that is rad.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Okay, so you're 13. Is that the first time you really like played a game that you would find in a game store, or did it start before that?
So me and my buddies were. I had 2 friends growing up, Greg and Kyle, right? And like Greg and Kyle were friends since 2nd grade. And then I came along and moved to Tennessee when I was in 4th grade. And then me, Greg, and Kyle became like the Three Musketeers. Like we were the best of friends. We did everything together, right? We did like, we all had Transformers toys. We all got into Pokemon together. We all got into Dragon Ball Z together. We all got into Magic together. And it was just like, that was our first experience. My first experience is, I think, when we were like 10 or 11 or 12.
Mm-hmm.
So like Pokemon was the go-to because it was like, I think it was 97. So any of you who were alive during 1997 remember and can remember 97, Pokemon was like everywhere. It was
off and popping.
It was
every single ride to school was 20 minutes of Pokemon trading in the back of the bus.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And you and your friends were playing Pokemon and be like, hey, can you trade me?
Go that far.
Well, no.
Never know it. I don't know. I've talked to many people. It's interesting how few people actually know how to play that game, given how many people collected it. It's hilarious.
Oh, what, real? Oh, no. I'm talking about like the video game.
Oh, yeah. No, I wasn't that cool.
I remember on the bus, there were a few kids, or at least at school, it was like one kid had red and one kid had blue, and you could only get Jinx on blue and Scyther on red, so you had to like trade with each other in order to get all 151.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you have that like cool cable to do it or to like battle. Yeah, I remember that. That was cool. But, okay, so you start off with Pokemon. You do D&D at 13.
Yeah.
When's the first time that you went into a game shop or like started becoming a regular at a game shop?
I would say probably 12 or 13.
So very early.
Yeah, it was Blackthorn. Like I said, my dad's always been very supportive of my hobbies.
That's nice.
Like I said, he never really got into the cards, and so it was less of a passion for him, but he liked the fact that I was doing kind of the same things that he was. Like he still enjoys the fact that I played D&D, and I tell him about it sometimes when we talk. And like he hasn't played in years because he doesn't have anybody to play with.
Aww.
It's all right. I mean, he moved away from all his friends, and first edition rules haven't been relevant in for 40 years.
All right, so you become a regular about the same time you get into D&D. When did you first, or did you ever have like aspirations or like think like working at a card shop would be cool?
Oh yeah, I thought it would be super cool to work at Blackthorn. That was my hometown game store that I mentioned earlier in the podcast. But I thought it would just be like the chillest job ever. I mean, you see like comic book guy from The Simpsons, and he might be fat and miserable, but still, that's a cool fucking job. Like as a kid, you're just like, I get to work in a comic book store?
Sorry, say that again for me real quick. I get to work in a comic book store.
Right.
What are the downsides?
Right.
So did you ever end up working at Blackthorn, or was that like an aspiration that didn't come across till like you moved to LA?
It wasn't something that happened until I moved to LA. So as I said earlier in the podcast, I was in the Marine Corps, so that took up a good 4 years of my life of employment, and did some family stuff, and then did some unfamilying stuff. I have an 11-year-old daughter and an ex-wife, if that gives you any inclination as to how my life has gone so far.
That does clarify the family stuff and then not doing the family stuff.
Yeah. So she, like, my daughter and her mom live in Riverside, which is about 100 miles away. I mean, we talk to each other on Duo, and oh man, I'm so burpy right now. I'm so sorry. This is unprofessional.
It's okay.
Mm-hmm. But so yeah, I thought it would always be fun. Like I said, my aspirations as a teenager were video game tester, or working in the video game industry, or voice actor. Because one of the things that, I don't know if you've ever played the Legacy of Kain series. So Soul Reaver 1. Michael Bell, very talented voice actor. He is probably one of the 3 people that maybe want to get into voice acting. Him and Tony J. Tony J did the voice of the Elder God from the Soul Reaver series, but he also did Judge Claude Frollo from Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah, he's the real deep voiced guy. He passed away back.
He did Shere Khan. Wait, hold on. I may or may not be Wikipediaing the man right now.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I'm looking back at his credits.
Yeah, he's got some gnarly. He was Megabyte in the reboot show.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah,
that show was fire. Holy shit!
But he's got a bunch of credits. He passed away in 2007. So
R.I.P.
Yeah, did a lot of good work. But he was very inspirational to me as far as voice acting is concerned. But I've kind of found my lot in life working at Turn Zero, and working at Turn Zero has been a journey in of itself. I've actually been fired from there 3 times.
Just can't keep them away.
I mean, there is a running joke at the store that I come with the building. Like if anybody buys the shop from Steven, it will be in their contract that they can't fire me.
Or if they do, they have to rehire you.
Right. If they fire me, they have to rehire me within a certain amount of time. But
was working at Turn Zero the first card shop you worked at, or have you worked at others and then ended up working at Turn Zero?
No, that's the first one I've worked at was Turn Zero.
First and only.
Yeah. It's my home.
Right, so what was it still that continuation of I want to work at a comic book store, that'd be cool, I didn't ever get to work at Blackthorn, that made you want to work there? Was it just job availability, it kind of fell into your lap and like it ended up being the thing you loved? How did you end up getting to work there?
It was more job availability, and I kind of just needed something at the time.
Yeah.
Because I had just graduated.
Bills need paid.
Yeah. I was 6 months behind on rent. And my landlord...
That's a long time.
I mean, my landlord is a good guy. A lot of people give landlords shit because they're inherently taking property away from people, blah, 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 blah. We can get into the socioeconomics of owning land at a different time. But
different podcast.
Right,
yeah.
Different podcast. But he's a good dude. He treats me well. He doesn't raise my rent. I've lived here for 9 years, and I've never had my rent raised.
Wow.
He has he and I have a personal relationship. It's not like I deal with a faceless property management company that deals with a landlord that lives in, China or South Korea. Like my landlord lives on Edgemont in fucking Los Angeles. Like I drop the rent off at his house every month. So it's not like he's some faceless company that just buys up properties. He's just, trying to do well for him and his family.
Yeah.
But he's a good guy.
So you need to get that job, you get the job.
Yep.
How much was it like what you dreamed of, and how much of it was like, I guess, like what dreams were dashed by taking the job of like what you had thought it was going to be, and what was different in a positive way that you hadn't expected?
I mean, the expectations of the job that it was going to be retail were, I mean, just it's a retail job, but it's not a corporate retail job. It's small owned business because it was owned by the old owner, James, and he is a character. I like James. I like James as a person, but I call him the human cyclone for a reason. Like, he would say, let me show you something real quick. 30 minutes later, he would still be showing me a different thing that he hadn't shown me the original thing. I timed it once. I was like, James, you've been telling me these things for 25 minutes and I haven't been able to do my job. Can I put these cards away, please? Can you please let me put the card? My least favorite part of the job is putting cards away, and I was like, please just let me do this. I can't sit here and listen to you anymore. No, but he's fine. Everybody's got their issues, and that's one thing that I've learned working at Turn Zero is like, you can write some people off as just like monsters or assholes or whatever, but everybody's got their issues. Everybody's got their background and their upbringing and their own life philosophies, and it gives you a little perspective on individuals. And we as Magic players, games, more so game store goers, like if you're a regular at a game store, you've definitely got some quirks. But my expectations of the job were that it was going to be work in retail.
Mm-hmm.
But I get to do it in an environment that I am absolutely in love with. Like,
yeah,
I went.
it's like you get to work at a yard sale where you don't have any worries about, you don't have any uh anything holding you back from selling the wares that you like.
Right. And I went to school for game design. That's one of the reasons I came to Los Angeles in the first place. Was I went to LA Film School. They had a video game design project, or not project program.
Mm-hmm.
It was 18 months long. I had 18 months left on my GI Bill, and so I was like, math checks out. Let's go.
Perfect.
So I came out here and did that. And one of my favorite classes during the video game um, production course was analog game design.
Mm-hmm.
And that was basically the school teaching us like how to design a rule book, how to design actual like pieces, and like start with your prototype and this, that, what have you. And one of the things that I learned about board games is you need a very well written rule book, otherwise your game is going to get lost behind terrible. There are great games out there that nobody can play because the rules are just, they're gibberish. Not necessarily gibberish, but it's just like these rules
not
don't make any sense.
Yeah, they're like sought out. Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason that Magic has what 650 pages of comprehensive rules.
Something like that. It's something ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, there's a rule for everything in this fucking game. But yeah, the pros have always outweighed the cons working at Turn Zero. I mean, sure, I could be making more money, but I live...
Wouldn't be having nearly as much fun, it sounds
right.
like.
It's like I live within my means, and I'm doing well for myself. I've got, a room in an apartment that is relatively inexpensive. I tell people how much I pay for rent, and their jaw hits the fucking floor.
They slap you and ask you if they kill you if
right.
they get to have it.
Because I mean, I don't know. Have I told you how much I pay, like monetarily?
I don't know if the audience needs to hear me swear, but no, you haven't. Feel free to.
I pay $500 a month in rent to live in Koreatown.
How tiny is your room?
I mean, my room is pretty big. I'd say it's probably 15 by 20.
Fuck you.
15 by 18, something like that.
Absolutely, fuck you.
I mean, it's like that's what.
Does it come? Like, let's add insult to injury. Does it come with a parking space?
Yeah, it does.
Fuck you. Jesus Christ.
That's like, I talk to my girlfriend about this all the time, and it's like, I would love for her and I to live together, but I'm not leaving this place anytime soon.
Yeah.
She had a room open up in her apartment, and I could have moved in with her, but I would be paying more than double what I pay here. She pays like $11.50 or $10.50 or something over there for a room.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah, that's fine. I'm gonna stay right the fuck here.
It's not time to end this era of awesome just yet.
Mm-hmm. So.
All right, so if you could synthesize, before we get too far off the beaten path, although I am loving the view, if you could synthesize what you love about this passion and write a one paragraph, couple sentence thesis on why you love just getting to help people find and play the right games that are either what they want or what they would like, what would that sound like?
I'm a what? I'm sorry.
What is the essence? Like, if you could sell somebody, explain it in just like the smallest of blurbs, what is it about like helping people find the right game for them that really gets your motor going? What, like, if you could like,
I see what
break
you're
it
saying.
down into
Gotcha.
like, just the smallest TLDR, what would it be? What would it look like?
So it would be understand the people you're talking to, really listen to what they have to say.
Not how to do it.
Oh.
Why it does what it does for you.
I have no idea, man. I'm gonna be real with you. I don't know why I like the things I do. I like helping people. And so when...
Well, what is it about doing this that's different than like working at a soup kitchen or is it just because you like helping people and this is something you love and it's like the marriage of between like of the two that like just makes it like the perfect bliss for you?
Yes.
Okay.
That is what it is. It's because I get to help people find the same passion that I have that has been so important to me for the majority of my life.
What has been your favorite? Do you have like a standout story that really encapsulates that experience for you?
No.
Is there like a customer that came in that was just like either, didn't know what they were looking for and you got to like get them the Holy Grail, or, you know, give somebody a game that you're like, yeah, I like this one, I'd recommend it, and they came back weeks later and like, oh my god, like I have now started the Church of Settlers of Catan. We have services every Thursday at 5:30 p.m. You please come. You'll be the guest of honor.
I would not, because I don't like Settlers of Catan. I'd be like, thank you.
Obviously, you wouldn't go. That's crazy. But have you ever had an experience like that where just you got to instill your energy and your passion into somebody else and like really see it?
Well, not off the top of my head. I deal with a lot of people, and and I'm really good with names, but the people that you're talking about, I wouldn't know their names. Like,
yeah.
I did maybe seen them like 2 times in 8 months, and I'm just like, I remember who you are. I remember when you came in, but it's just like I deal with too many people to be able to like
Totally
to nail that down.
Is there a game that you like are more likely to push on people either because you love it or it's just such a great crowd pleaser? Like, is there any game that is just if you can't figure somebody out, or if their time is limited, your time is limited, that is just kind of like a go-to at the moment?
Gizmos.
Why?
It's easy, it's fun, and you get to play with colored beads.
And who doesn't love that?
Who doesn't love playing with colored beads? But yeah, basically Gizmos is this engine building board game where you are trying to build the most efficient engine possible by taking these little balls of energy. So they're little colored orbs. There's blue, yellow, red, and black. And then the different orbs let you buy different machines, and the different machines do different things. And so let's say you've got a machine that whenever you get an orb of a certain color, it lets you get a random orb out of the tub. So basically you're 2-for-1ing. You can take 2 actions for every 1 action. So you basically want to get to the point in this game where you are taking as many actions with as little choice as possible. You just get to take all these different game actions. And I think the reason Gizmos is fun is because of how simple it is. It's just you get one of 4 things you could do on your turn, and then you go from there.
That sounds fun.
It's a ton of fun.
You may or may not have another customer.
I mean, we have a demo copy at the store if you ever want to play it. I'm down.
All right. So, what would you say is the biggest misconception about working in a game store or, trying to help people find the right game by the wider world? Like, what do people like assume about your job or about, your kind of passion that they're just way off base?
That we are all smelly, antisocial nerds.
It's only 93%.
Only 93%. I'd say the biggest misconception is when this is funny. People always come in thinking we're the smoke shop, but that's a different kind of misconception. The biggest misconception is that that board games and general games like that stop at Monopoly or Sorry or your Milton Bradley type games, where there are a lot of passionate people out there with preposterous peeves that make board games. Do you see what I did there? Did you see it? You're welcome.
Very, very sneaky, sis.
But you've got a ton of people out there that they love doing what they do, and when you cut yourself off with when you limit yourself to your Apples to Apples or your Monopoly or your Sorry or what other big box games they sell at like Barnes and Noble or Target or Walmart or whatever, then you don't get to see all of these fun and interesting like niche games. The way that what we call them in the industry, because my industry is the most important industry, and that's why I call it the industry. Right. The reason that what we call them are designer games, because they are more niche, but just as fun, if not more fun, than the Milton Bradley games. You know, the family games that everybody grew up with, because Milton Bradley's marketing is better than everybody else's.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you this, the marketing is where most people learn about things, and that's why Thomas Edison is, he is attributed to inventing the light bulb, which he did not invent the light bulb. He was a businessman that marketed the commercial light bulb and patented it first.
Yeah.
The light bulb was actually invented 80 years before he patented it. Fuck Thomas Edison. He sucks.
All right, well, before we end up on too much of an old white man tangent, do you have a favorite non-obvious aspect to being a board game guru?
Oh man, getting to yell at nerds in the store is my favorite part. That's the non-obvious one. You only get to see that if you start coming around. You get my customers.
You get to yell at children and their mom can't even be mad.
Right.
It's great.
No, it's great. No, I yell at adults. I don't even yell at children. No, the
master of your domain.
That's right. You come into turn 0, and if you're new there, I treat you like you're new. If you come in the 3rd or 4th time, then you get the real Doug. And if the real Doug comes out, that means I like you. And if I like you, that means you might get some free shit later. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
All right. Well, since we talked about yelling at people, it sounds like it might be time to move on to our next segment, which is, what is your preposterous peeve?
Corgis.
You're going to need to be a little bit more descriptive.
I hate them. They're tiny mutants, and they make me angry when I see them.
What makes them stand out or raise your ire differently than, say, like a Chihuahua or like a purse poodle or something?
Their proportions are unsettling.
They have too much dump in the trunk?
They have too much dump in the trunk, and their legs are too short. Their bodies are too big for their legs. They shouldn't exist, but they do. I hate them. Your listeners are going to be like, this monster, how could he be that way? No, my.
When did you first notice that this like really aggravated you? Like, was it the first time you saw a corgi, or like, it's unnatural, kill it, or like, was there like a bad experience, or what made you feel this way?
So there is a fun story behind this. So one of my good friends from high school, Brandon, I played like D&D and Magic and all that stuff. He was part of the main high school group. We were all together all the time. And we
called it the Cool Kids Crew.
We were the Cool Kids Crew, and we spelled it with, not C's. That's bad from being from Tennessee. I shouldn't say that. Cut that out. Cut that out. No. Yeah, so he always had a thing for my cousin Emily. So Brandon and I are not related. We grew up, like, my graduating class was 333 people. So I grew up in a relatively small town. I think Dixon County in all has maybe 50,000 people in it. The whole county.
I grew up in a town that I think the county's like 35,000. So I feel you.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you.
And so, like, we grew up, my aunt Lori had a coffee shop that she opened up in downtown Dixon called the Chatterbox, and that's where we all went after high school and hung out.
It's a great. Just pause for a second. That is a great name for a coffee shop.
I know. It's just I'm bummed that she had to close the coffee shop down because.
No.
Yeah.
All right, so you're at the Chatterbox.
So we'd always go to the Chatterbox after school and hang out there. And obviously, since Aunt Lori is Emily's mom, and Brandon always hung out with me. and we all went to school together. Brandon was a senior, I was a junior, Emily was a sophomore, so there's like a 2-year difference between the two of them, which, you know, in high school is enormous. It's like, oh, you can't be dating a freshman, that's impossible. But, you know, my parents are 6 years apart. Me and my girlfriend are 5 years apart, 4 years apart. So it's like, the older you get, the less it fucking matters. I'll be honest with you. But you know, they for years and years, Brandon, they were in band together too. And like, I'll tell you this, and I don't know if this is true with your school, but in my school, all the band kids, they were all sluts. All the band kids, they were all sluts. They were all like,
get in where you fit in.
I mean, it's like they like, you know, the band bus would go to like football games, and there'd be like all sorts of sex going on in the back, and blowjobs and all sorts of like. I'm telling you, they were the
nasty
raunch. They were the nasty people. Like, not nasty. I mean, sex is sex. Live your fucking best life. I'm not judging anybody, but they were.
They were dirty.
They were all so dirty. I wanted to be one of them so bad. No. But Brandon and Emily were in band together, and so they knew each other, but she wouldn't give him the time of day. And obviously, a high school boy who doesn't get the attention of the girl he is swooning over just fawns over her more. That's typically how that works. And so years and years of this go on, and I keep telling Brandon, I'm like, Brandon, just stop. She's not worth it. Quit. She's my cousin. She's a horrible person, and she'll do terrible things to you, which I won't get into details, but she did do terrible things to him. They're still married. As far as I know.
We now know how the story ends.
Yeah, the story ends with them being married. He's in the Air Force. I don't know what the hell she does now. I think she works at like a pottery barn or some shit. I don't remember. I'm off of Facebook. I haven't been on Facebook in years. But so there was one point where he posted a thing that was very outside of, like, it was not very Brandon of him. So he's obviously changed. And the only reasonable explanation to why he's changed is Emily has changed him, right? That's how the mind works when you're trying to justify why your friends are becoming different people.
Sure.
And he posted a thing on Facebook and said, "Corgi butts drive me nuts." And I was like, Brandon. This is a different Brandon, by the way, not the one that moved to Wisconsin. I have 2 friends named Brandon, just for anybody who's confused. But I was like, Brandon, what are you doing? Why are you posting that? And my cousin Emily, being the ever affluent and reasonable person that she is, retaliated with, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. And I was like, yo, that's like borderline bestiality. Get off my boy. And I was just like, I hate corgis. Corgis are the worst. And they would always talk about this, like, corgi owners and corgis. It's just like they go hand in hand. Corgi owners are just like, my dog's the cutest thing in the world. It was like, no, you own a shoebox with legs that shouldn't exist. They just make me so mad.
It's a desecration to all mankind.
It really, like, it's
you have raised the ire of God.
Right? It's uncanny valley level of, you know...
to Uncanny Valley Doggo?
Yeah. And that's why it's a preposterous peeve. Like, you and I talked about this briefly before the show. It's like, people call me out on it, and I'm just like, you're right. I shouldn't hate corgis. They're not that bad, but I do.
But I do anyway.
I look at them, and it's like, they're like tiny little football-sized dogs. I just want to send them through a goalpost. Just...
Well, I'm glad that you want to, but haven't. It sounds
like. I mean, I'm not. I mean, that says a lot for fantasy. People imagine things all the time, but if you do them, then that's a different story.
You think it. You're a normal guy on a cool podcast. You do it. You're in prison.
That's right. Yeah, it's like once you cross that line, you're just like, oh.
All right. Oh, with that glorious nugget mental image, we're going to go to our second ad break. But don't go anywhere, because when we get back, Doug is going to enter the lightning round.
Lightning round.
See you in a bit. Woo! Having trouble staying awake?
Oh, yeah.
Wish you'd followed your dreams so you had the give a crap necessary to meet your deadlines?
Oh, definitely.
Are you likely to be fired the second another warm body walks through that door and asks your boss for an application?
Probably.
Would you prefer to keep this shit sack of a job instead of explaining to Susan that you've been fired?
I mean, I guess.
Well, then let me introduce you to caffeine. Caffeine is a highly addictive substance that'll keep you jittery and energized to do any fucking stupid task for hours.
Uh, that sounds like drugs.
It is.
Aren't drugs illegal?
Not this one. So next time you feel like sitting on the sidewalk instead of at your desk, reach for a caffeine.
Wait, you didn't tell me where I can buy it.
'Cause it's mother loving everywhere, you blind Neanderthal. And we're back. Doug, are you ready to enter the lightning round?
Lightning round?
Yes.
All right, buckle your seatbelt. Keep your arms inside the ride at all times. Doug, is there a price for you to give up your passion forever?
No.
Make the food or do the dishes?
Do the dishes.
Are soups smoothies?
No.
Did you ever cheat on a test in school?
Yes.
Are you out of touch, or is it the children who are wrong?
The children. Always the children.
Would you rather have your inner monologue sound like Gilbert Gottfried or Fran Drescher?
Fran Drescher.
Would you rather read the cue cards while wearing the crown or live in a hovel and speak your mind?
Live in a hovel and speak my mind.
That's my guy.
Yeah.
You're having the best day of your life. What happens next? Another amazing thing or something terrible?
Amazing thing.
Pineapple on pizza or fist fight?
Pineapple, obviously.
You come across a stranger just struck by a car. Their dying breath is this. This is very important. Please tell my wife. She's a dirty harlot. Ooh. Do you or do you not tell their wife?
I do.
Is professional wrestling cool or lame?
Depends on the era, but I would say the one that I grew up in was cool. Lame at the time, cool now.
Would you rather be completely made of eyeballs from the neck down, no eyelids, or be a remote-controlled Tonka truck from the neck down? You have the remote, but do not have the appendages to use it, so you must give the remote to one trusted individual.
I would say Tonka truck because being made of eyes sounds extremely painful.
Yes. Assuming there were no health or global effects to worry about, would you rather it always be dark or always be light?
Dark.
Stub your toe or make small talk with strangers?
Small talk with strangers.
Would you rather have a class of 40 students for 5 months or 20 students for 10 months, assuming that the pay is the same regardless?
20 students for 10 months.
Do tomatoes belong in a fruit salad?
No. Unless that fruit salsa, unless that fruit salad is salsa.
Do you believe that your life will have a significant impact on the world and human history?
No.
If there were for sure no afterlife, would you live your life differently than you do today?
No.
Could you eat 37 of your favorite food for $5,000 in a 1-hour time limit?
No.
Well, either way, congratulations, you've survived the lightning round.
I think the last question. Real quick, I want to
we're gonna get to that real quick.
Okay.
But before we move on to your prize, I, like many listeners at home, would like to now know, what is your favorite food that you couldn't eat 37 of in a 1-hour time limit for $5,000?
It's like you were reading my mind because that's what I was going to tell you. My favorite food is lasagna, so I couldn't eat 37 lasagna casseroles in 1 hour.
What if it was like those shitty ones you like got in like cafeterias back in the day? Like the little, it's like a 2-inch by 2-inch square. Do you think you could eat 37 of those, or is that 30? All too many? Or?
I also think that's too many because that's just like that's just like a 2x2 square of dense pasta, meat, and cheese.
Yeah,
it's just so dense.
That's some Joey Chestnut shit right there. Right. All right, and as a reward for surviving the dangerous and difficult lightning round, what lightning round question would you like to ask me, and in turn be asked to future guests?
So my question is, would you rather be an omniscient amnesiac, so you know all general knowledge, but don't know who you are, or a nat 20 charismatic person with halitosis?
This is a really good one.
Mm-hmm. We're talking like charisma to move nations, but you could never have a personal relationship because your halitosis is so bad.
Yeah, I know. But also, like, knowing everything is its own, comes with its own, like, boon.
Yeah,
or
right.
bane.
Yeah.
You know, like, everything, so, like, conversations get weird, like, really fast. Like, I've got something to tell you. It's like, I already fucking know.
I know.
Like, nobody can, like, give something new to you, and you don't know who you are. Like, I guess I would, I guess I would do nat 20 with charisma, have halitosis, and then I think, like, down the line at some point, once I've, like, become the leader of at least one nation, I would probably get my, like, sense of smell removed or something like that, so I wouldn't have to smell it, because you smell your own halitosis, right?
You do sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. I would use the money I gained from my charisma to, like, deal with that for myself, and then be like, sorry, and, like, hopefully just forget, like, because if you have charisma that's wrong, maybe, like, you'll be so amazing that other people will kind of get used to it,
well, like,
or, you know, you'll be able to, like, talk past it.
Have you ever seen the movie Perfume?
I've seen clips of it. It's very, for the name, it is, like, surprisingly, like, dark, right?
It's a very dark film, but the whole premise of the movie is that this guy is making the perfect perfume, and it's like this legend says that this perfume causes people to just, like, get into this euphoric state, and but the guy, he has, like, a super hyper sense of smell, but he himself doesn't smell. Like, dogs can't smell him. Like, there's a scene in the movie where he steps over a dog and he's just like, oh shit, why didn't the dog wake up and smell me? And he, like, finds out that he doesn't have a sense of smell. But it's like,
well, that he doesn't have a scent, right?
He doesn't have a scent. Yeah, he has the, like, greatest sense of smell, but has no scent. Like, he doesn't smell like anything. But it's just like, I think the halitosis would kind of counteract, because your sense of smell is tied so closely to, like, memory and emotion and this, that, and what have you. And so, like, the halitosis, you'd have to wear, like, a Bane mask. You'd basically be Bane. You'd be like, you'd be like,
Bane, like, charismatic Bane.
Oh, welcome to Gotham. You know, some shit like that.
Have you met my daughter? We should go out on a 3-way date. Like, I don't know.
If I had to pick between the two, I would definitely go, like, without a shadow of a doubt, because I think charisma is overrated, and I can't imagine smelling bad all the time. I'm very neutral smelling these days, I think. That's what my girlfriend tells me. But I would have to go with the omniscience and amnesia. Like, it's such a fascinating thing to think about, because you would be able to be like, how do you install an air conditioner into a corporate building? It's like, you would know how to do it. It's like,
I know it.
All the things that people have to, like, work, and like the way that humans work, you get better at doing things by doing them more, and you would just be good at everything all the time. It would make life less enjoyable. I think you would become sort of Dr. Manhattan-y, in the fact that you would, like,
that's my concern for sure.
You'd lose your humanity and, like, detach yourself from people around you, because obviously you don't know who you are.
You'd lose your humanity in two ways. You wouldn't be able to connect with other people, and you wouldn't know who you were.
Right, exactly. So you're just like, do you want to not be human, or do you want to be the most human but smell bad?
I don't smell that good. I'll take that, like, slightly lower L to take that slightly bigger high.
Right. But I think knowing things, because knowledge is absolutely, it's just so powerful.
Knowledge is power. Yeah.
So I think I would have to pick that one as my choice.
That's a great one. All right, man, as we come to close, anything you want to plug, shout outs you'd like to give, places people can find you or your content?
I don't make content other than my entertaining spouts at Turn Zero Games, so I will plug my work. Turn Zero Games, we are in Koreatown on the corner of Wilshire and Wilton. We're tucked away.
Highly recommend.
Yeah, we are tucked away in a corner. Hard to find.
Tucked away between two great Korean restaurants.
Yeah, Galbi and Hanchik. And parking's kind of atrocious, but there is a street 2 blocks west of us that has a fire station, and that's the secret. You got to park over there.
That's
St. Andrews.
Is that St. Andrews?
No, St. Andrews is east of Wilton. I forget what the name of it is.
I gotta look it up, because I need to know this. Right, I park there all the time, but I don't know the name of it.
Right, but it's changed your life, right? There's always parking over there.
Yeah, like you always park over there. It's between, it's on South Van Ness.
Van Ness, there you go.
Yeah, it's between the after school and the Los Angeles Department Fire Station. It's 2 blocks away, or if you're lucky, there's parking in the parking area or the parking behind. But yeah, South Van Ness is like the life hack.
Yeah, that's the life hack. That's the life hack I didn't answer earlier.
Going back to a segment far earlier, that's the life hack.
Yeah. So yeah, plug Turn Zero Games, come through, learn how to play D&D. It's a great hobby. Magic's not for everybody, but it's also a great hobby. Board games are generally accepted by most people.
Don't learn Magic unless you don't want to have money.
True. That's also true. Yeah.
Look at your bank account and decide how much of that is just ready to go up in flames down.
I mean, I've got
2x3 pieces of cardboard with some pretty cool art on it.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, if my backpack ever got stolen, I would cry very heavily. I would cry a lot. Yep. My backpack's probably like 10 grand worth of cards, I'd have to say. But
there was as a, kind of I can't think of words. A story along that same pathway. There was a fire when I lived up in Santa Rosa. A very big fire that happened there, and it was rush of night. Like, hey, fire! Like roommate comes knocking on my door at 3 a.m. It's like, I think there's a fire. It's like, why are you awake? And so we check, and there's indeed a fire. We need to vacate. And so the first thing I grabbed before anything else was 2 boxes of Magic cards and set in my car. I was like, all right, now what? I was like, I think I left without clothes, my computer, and all this other stuff.
Well, I mean, that stuff, it's
most important thing.
Yeah, it's almost irreplaceable at a certain point. It's like, you've got legacy decks, I've got legacy decks. Those things are thousands of dollars. And it's not like it's thousands of dollars in one item. It's thousands of dollars spread between 75 different items. So it's like...
Or in some cases, thousands of dollars in one item.
Yeah.
Tabernacle at Pentrevale.
Tabernacle. But it's like, as far as the decks are concerned, typically not the entire value is in one piece. It's like the whole that the pieces are made out of. But yeah, shout out Turn Zero Games. Shout out to my girlfriend, Vinayaki. She's a very lovely, wonderful person. She is a violin.
I mean, she's dating you, so.
I know, right? Everybody always says that. They're always like...
I'm just kidding.
No, it's like... No, but everybody that sees her is just like, damn, Doug, you're really punching up. I was like, wow, thanks. What am I?
Thanks for that dagger?
What am I, a fucking cave troll, you piece of shit? Get out of my face. But she is a professional singer-songwriter. She is hireable for music gigs. You can find her on Instagram. Her name is spelled Vainayaki, Vinayaki. She does weddings. She does church services, bar mitzvahs, birthday parties, all sorts of stuff. She's a professional violinist. That's what she does for main gig. She's wonderful. I love her to death. She's going to listen to this podcast, so she's going to get all teary-eyed and choked up when they're going to be like, oh, she said he loves me on the internet. Places to eat. Well, let me do a couple more shout-outs real quick. Shout out to Greg. Shout out to Greg from back home. He'll never hear this, but you're my best friend since 4th grade, and I love you. Shout out to Brandon. Might hear this. I'll send it to him. I'll send it to Brandon. He'll listen to it.
You're going to get a copy of this. You could send it to me.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to. I'm going to do it. Shout out to Brandon, one of the best people I've ever met in my life. He helped me a lot when I needed it, and he is there for those who he cares for, which is, the kind of person that I want to be. I try to do that as much as I can, as far as like my what's the word I'm looking for? My life situation allows. So, places to eat. The only place I recommend to people when they come to Los Angeles is a place called Dan Sang Sa. It is a Korean joint on 6th and Berendo. It opens at 4 p.m. and closes at 2 a.m. They have the best atmosphere of any Korean restaurant in Los Angeles. You can get skewers. You can get these things called dumbbells, which I always get. You get kimchi pancake, shumai skewers, pork belly, short rib, all sorts of good stuff. Just go check it out. It's a fantastic place to go. And that's my recommendation to eat is Dan Sang Sa. Sung.
Sungsa.
Yeah. Anything else?
All right, man. Do you have any friends or family you'd like to nominate to come on this podcast so they too could suffer as you have today?
Oh yeah, sure. I got a couple of people here in LA that would be good. My roommate Steven Sedoche. I think he'd be really good on the podcast. He's got a lot of interesting passions and is, a pretty wild character as far as I'm concerned. My buddy Gabe Sedgemore, who I bought my $1,500 motorcycle from. He's a fantastic guy. My friend Laura might actually be really good. Laura Dromerick, I can send you her contact information, but she's also wonderful. And I think that's good. I mean, 3 people's fine, right?
3 people's loads. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, I got tons of people I know. I'm the guy that knows people. So
bragging much. I know more than 3 people. What to do?
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, thank you, Doug, for being my guest today.
Of course.
And a special thanks to my editor, Richard Ashford, my composer, Joshua Gibbons, and thank you. Yes, you listening at home or wherever you found time to appreciate this. Time is the most precious commodity we have, and I appreciate you spending yours with us. And if you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe, like, or just share it with a friend. Every little bit helps. Or if you already have and are out of episodes to listen to, don't worry, we put out a new episode every Monday at midnight on Soundcloud, YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes at Passionate People and Preposterous Peeps Podcast. And a very special thanks are due to our Patreon patrons, Sabella Yellow. And if you'd like to join said illustrious ranks and have your name read aloud, just head on over to patreon.com/Passionate People and Preposterous Peeps Podcast. And remember, folks, you bake a cake, I dine on swine, we scream for ice cream. So why can't they see why kids love Cinnamon Toast Crunch?